When I started my audiophile journey, over 30 years ago, I am aging myself here, small hi-fi manufacturers were the norm. You know, the type where you find an engineer toiling away in a workshop with a couple of employees helping out. Unfortunately, many of those owners have passed away and their companies bitten the dust or been bought out by corporates. But if you go looking, you can still find them. Tony Miller is no longer with us, but I'm sure that Sugden is in good hands with his son at the helm. Each amplifier is still hand-built at their small facility in West Yorkshire and even comes with a label with the name of the person who built it. Sadly, Glenn Croft recently passed away as well, and Croft Acoustics disappears with him. He could be found in his workshop building kit pretty much to the very end. I never did get to review one of his amplifiers that now have a cult status. On a cheerier note, after 30 years tinkering on a circuit design, Tim Narramore finally brought his low feedback amplifier to market in 2018. The passion shows with the Moor Angel Pre and Angel 4 power amp, which are the best that I've heard to date. David Bells is still building amplifiers that bear his name on the other side of the pond. I reviewed his entry Aria amplifier, which sounds great but different in character from what you get from the corporates that have to design by consensus. For as long as I'm doing this channel, I'll be happy to shine a light on small hi-fi manufacturers driven by enthusiasts. NVA is such a company, with each amplifier hand-built in Durham, England. The original designer, Richard Dunn, is also no longer with us, but his uncompromising purist approach was highly individual and survives with the current owners. It was based on two core principles. The best component is slightly worse than no component at all, so design the simplest circuit that you possibly can. Sounds easy. The reality is quite different, and I'll get into that later. The second principle was to feed it with the best quality power supply that you can. This one was quite a ride. The P50 preamp and S80 power amp come in identical sized gloss black acrylic boxes. That's right, acrylic, no metal in sight. It'll be clear later, but there's method in the madness. Each one measures 250 by 210 by 70 millimeters or 9.8 by 8.3 by 2.8 inches. Nothing to see on the front of the S80 power amp other than the LED to indicate that it's on and the logo. The preamp is a minimalist dream as well, with a volume control on the left and an input selector on the right. My main complaint is that I'd like the logo to be more discreet by being smaller and in the same location for both preamp and power amp. There's no remote control as the P50 is a passive preamp. The P50 retails for £405 and the S80 for £885, sold direct from the NVA website, link in the description. However, you can buy them as a package for £1,200, which also comes with their SC interconnect and LS3 speaker cable, saving £150. The rear of the P50 has a host of RCAs. The direct connection bypasses the input selector circuitry, so you engage just the volume control. There are 3 line level inputs, a tape loop and 3 sets of RCA outputs that will not only allow biamping but even triamping to be a possibility, or to use with powered speakers and subwoofers. The S80 power amp has a toggle switch to turn it on, 1 set of RCA inputs and a set of speaker outputs that will only accept banana plugs. Like exposure, NVA believe these sound superior to conventional speaker binding posts. Let's talk about the casework. What's the deal with that? Well, it isn't about saving money. It's CNC machined out of cast acrylic, which is more durable and expensive than the standard extruded acrylic. It's manufactured by a specialist company that creates display cases for the Natural History Museum, no less. Richard Dunn's investigation some time ago revealed that metal cases produce circulating eddy currents that were detrimental to sound quality. Even the screws holding the circuit boards in place weren't immune to this effect. His answer was to make everything out of plexiglass and secure things by structural adhesives and acrylic welding. I couldn't remove the lid of the P50 preamp without breaking it, but it's a passive design. There won't be much to see. Silver-plated Teflon coated wiring is used to facilitate connections, along with a very high quality Blue Beauty Alps volume pot for attenuation. Kindly Mark and Paul at NVA left the top of the S80 unglued so I can show you the internals. The transformer is by Polish company Toroidi, rated at 80 VA. It's not huge, but adequate for a 30-watt amplifier. This is the baby in the range. There are much bigger amplifiers should you wish to move up. Notice the transformer is bonded rather than screwed to the chassis. Everything about this amplifier is about quality over quantity. The power supply filter caps are from American company Vishay, also highly regarded, but only 4,700 microfarads per channel, which is going to have some bearing on this little amplifier's ability to handle heavy transient attacks. There are two identical power amplifier modules with components well spaced out, and the locations apparently chosen to minimize interference between them. Nice to see fully discrete through-hole components as opposed to the tiny surface mount type. In a power amplifier module, they have better inherent power handling and thermal dissipation capabilities. What is remarkable at the price is that the circuit is DC coupled between stages. Removing electrolytic capacitors from the signal path normally improves clarity and reduces coloration, but it's something you only tend to see on much more expensive amplifiers. The bypass capacitors that are used, the little red rectangles, are Weimer film caps. Top quality stuff. I'm getting excited. I hope you're sitting down, because I'm not exaggerating. This little NVA pre-power at £1,200 has a clarity and natural tonality in the mid-range and high frequencies that I've only heard from one other amplifier in my home. And so you know exactly where I'm coming from, let me go through my reference amplifiers at different prices. Forget the Exposure 2510 at £1,700. In these aspects of sound quality, it doesn't come close. That's true of the Wilsington R8 with upgraded PS vane tubes as well, which will cost you more than the P50 S80 in the UK, by the way. Yep, the Hagel H190 at £3,300 also bites the dust in comparison when it comes to sheer levels of insight in the mid-range and high frequencies. Shall I go on? I think I will. My own vintage Exposure 21 Pre and 18 Super monoblocks are left by the curbside as well. The Accuphase E280 may get close in terms of clarity, but can't match the NVAs when it comes to natural tonality, and it costs just under £5,000. What you hear from this little pre-power is astonishing. Leading edges of notes are great, but it's the reverberation in the middle of the note and the way in which they fall away that simply takes your breath away. It means that vocals and lead instruments are presented exquisitely. So well preserved are the upper harmonic structures and spatial cues that you know exactly where the performers are in front of you and in relation to each other. Soundstage depth, there's droves of it because the background is pitch black. The only amplifier that I've encountered that can match the mids, highs, natural tone, imaging precision and soundstage depth of the NVA P50 S80 is the Moor Angel Pre and Angel 4, but that pre-power combination will set you back about £8,000. Okay, so I'm not going to get carried away here. There's a problem with the bass. It lacks definition. Even the Cambridge Audio AXA35, which is around £350, does equally a good job of hanging on to the rhythm section, although I should caveat that Cambridge is an exceptional sounding amplifier for the money. And the lack of gripper control I feel also shows up in the soundstage width, which is good rather than great. About £1 for every time I encountered an amplifier that wasn't the last word in bass control, and that also impacted on soundstage width. I probably have enough for a good night out. There are a couple of workarounds to this softness in the lower frequencies, so let's talk about that. The problem is power. The solution, more power. The S80 is the baby in the NVA range. Choose one of its big brothers to biamp, possibly even triamp if you have a three-way design, and the likelihood is the problem will go away. The other workaround is to choose its dance partner very carefully. Getting the speaker choice right is critical with the S50 P80 combination, and if you choose wisely, I think you'll be rewarded like nothing else I know. Choose unwisely and it's either your speakers or these amplifiers that are going up for sale. The life of a hi-fi reviewer may seem glamorous, but just take a look at the number of speakers I had to chop and change to get it right. The Amphion Argon 1s highlighted the joys to be had in the mid-range and upper frequencies, but also the disappointment to be found lower down. That was even more the case with my Product Response 1 SEs, which was sublime in the mids and top, but decidedly woolly at the bottom. In the absence of a true high sensitivity speaker, which would be great to try by the way, out came the JBL 4309s, which I thought may give the NVA combo an easier ride. I was wrong. It was with compact near-field monitors like the Sound Artist LS35A that the P50 S80 started to shine, but the little NVAs deserve better. My favourite combination was with the DALI Menuet SEs, the stunning clarity and tonality clearly on offer, and the limited bass control kept in check due to the mini monitor naturally rolling off at about 60 Hz. Before I move on, I just want to talk about cabling. Like old name amplifiers, and my exposure pre-monos for that matter, these NVA amplifiers have no filter circuit on the output stage. Remember, the idea is to have as few components as possible in the signal path. Normally you have an inductor circuit on the output stage to filter out high frequencies. There's no such thing here, so if the S80 is fed with a 100 kHz signal, it will be amplified. That means that cables with shielding and some with a twisted geometry need to be avoided, even though they can offer excellent noise rejection properties. The problem with those types of designs are that they typically have a higher capacitance, which presents a low load at high frequencies. An amplifier like the S80 can potentially oscillate if somehow a high frequency signal finds its way to the input, and this can potentially damage the amplifier but your speakers as well. And this is the reason why I think NVA primarily supply speaker cables with their amplifiers to get you started. The ones I received in their starter kit are okay, but they are the most basic ones they offer. You may want to explore what they have further up their range. In any case, they were bettered by cables I had in-house. I'm in the process of investigating cables for my own use at the moment, so I was fortunate enough to have quite a few different types lying around, something that I can talk about some other time. But my advice to you is that if you're going to try your own cables, check with NVA first that they are appropriate. NVA's design philosophy speaks for itself, taking a purist design approach further than any other brand that I've encountered so far, removing as much metalwork as humanly possible and utilising the bare minimum but top quality parts throughout. The sheer level of fidelity on offer in the mid-range and upper frequencies is phenomenal, as is the ability to lay out a performance in front of you. Clearly isn't a solution for everybody. The acrylic casework, lack of remote control and limited power are going to be an issue for some. This hits a lot of my sweet spots though. Small company, driven by enthusiasts, purist design, and oh my, the sound. Now I hope I don't regret this later, but I do feel that the little NVA stack, in order to get an outstanding, needs to perform well in all of the three fundamental areas of sound quality. It knocks it out of the park when it comes to clarity and natural tonality in the mid-range and upper frequencies, but ultimately it's the lack of power that hampers bass grip and control. The NVA S50 and P80 gets a very highly recommended from this channel. If I'm permitted, I'd love to check out some of NVA's more powerful offerings further down the line. It's a pretty unique approach to amplifier design. Some may find it quirky, others ingenious. I know which camp I fall in. And my question of the day is simple. What interesting and unusual hi-fi products have you encountered during your hi-fi journey? Please let me know about that in the comments section. All that remains for me to say is if you like what I do, I'm sure you know what to do by now. Do check me out on Patreon. There's some consultancy services there if you think I can help you on your audiophile journey. And the ABA Club on Patreon is a great way to support this channel. You also get the opportunity to interact with me face to face, as well as some other benefits. But for today, for now, a British audiophile signing off.